The placement and consolidation of concrete is a critical step in the process of concrete construction. Preparation and timing are important in each placement situation. Concrete can be placed using several methods, including using buggies, cranes with buckets, pump trucks, and the simplest way of placing concrete, with ready-mix trucks discharging their loads directly into the form. Depositing the concrete in the form is just the first step in concrete placement. The second step is to properly consolidate it. Once the concrete has been deposited in the forms, it has to be compacted or consolidated to make it into a solid uniform mass, without voids, rock pockets, or sand streaks. The most common method of consolidating concrete is by using some kind of vibrating device. Vibrators come in many sizes and kinds, but all can be grouped as either internal immersion vibrators or external vibrators, depending on whether they operate immersed in the concrete or apply their vibration externally. The following information in this video details the typical process of placing and consolidating concrete. When it comes to concrete, there are many different types and mixes available. These different types and mixes are prepared for distribution at a concrete batch plant. The type and mix of the concrete is determined by the engineer and listed in the project specs. The allowable slump is also determined by the engineer and listed in the specs. The slump test is used to measure the consistency or stiffness of concrete. A wet, soft batch of concrete will have a greater slump than a dry, stiff batch. Water weakens the strength of the concrete, so the slump test will provide information regarding not just the consistency of concrete, but also its strength. The slump test must be given to each load of concrete that will be used on the project. When the concrete arrives on the job, the crew should be ready and in place to receive and place the concrete without delay. They should have all of the tools and equipment necessary to perform their jobs before the truck arrives. On this job, they are pumping the mix into the forms. The concrete should not be dropped a long distance, about 3 feet when slump is more than 4 inches. This can cause the mix to separate and create rock pockets. Controlling the fall distance from pump truck hose to form will prevent separation from occurring. When filling the forms, you have to do it in lifts. You cannot just fill the form to the top. You should work in 18 to 24-inch lifts to ensure proper consolidation and to prevent cold joints, visible lines in the wall where 2 lifts meet. You can also place concrete with the use of a concrete bucket. However, the same rules apply. The bucket is commonly used for columns and piers. Each bucket load can be used to determine the lift, and vibrating can take place while the bucket is being refilled. Each lift must be vibrated to consolidate the concrete and release trapped air. Consolidating the concrete will help prevent rock pockets, honeycombing, and voids like these. However, over-vibrating can also cause problems like blowing the forms or causing the aggregate to separate. There are many different types and sizes of vibrators. The size of the pour usually dictates the type and size of vibrator used. As mentioned before, when placing concrete on flat work, there are different ways to accomplish the job. Large areas that cannot be reached by ready-mix trucks are usually pumped, like this one. Smaller areas can be done using the direct placing method. This method involves depositing the concrete directly from the ready-mix truck into the form using the chute or chutes on the truck. Small, odd shapes or hard-to-get-to areas may have to be hand-wheeled using a wheelbarrow or concrete buggy. The laborers placing the concrete must be careful not to install too much or too little. This will make their job harder. When the screeding is taking place, the laborers placing the concrete have to rake the concrete out from in front of the screed or push concrete into the low spots to ensure a quality product as an end result. Remember when working with concrete to always wear your PPE, hard hat, gloves, safety glasses, and ear protection. Also, protective clothing when and if required. A lot of the tasks involved with placing concrete belong to the laborer craft. So remember to plan your work safe and to safely work your plan.